The recording has started.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, welcome everyone to today's April 17th meeting of the Livable Roadways Committee. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And while we don't necessarily have a point yet, oh, there we go. Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Hurtak.
Here.
Yanika Mills.
Here.
Kevin O'Hare.
Here.
Sophia Garantiva.
Here.
Emily Hinsdale.
Here.
Krista Thompson and Daniel Riffenberger excused. Larry Josephson.
Here.
Karen Kress and Casey Bauer are also excused. Rebecca Hessinger.
Here.
Omar Pirzada.
Here.
Jason Jackman.
Here virtually.
Robert Fry. I saw him virtual.
I'm sorry.
I saw
was on
him
mute.
virtual as
Here.
well. There he is. Okay.
Sorry.
Gloria Belangia.
Here.
Sarah Templeman. Una Johnson.
Here.
Catherine Coyle.
Here virtually.
Arizona Jenkins, I believe, is excused, and Gus Ignis.
Here.
And I do think that gives us an in-person quorum.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And then we have Sarah Templeton has come to join us. Don't anyone from the public here to speak? All of familiar. So,
And I apologize for not standing, but 40-mile bike ride on Saturday, and there's parts of my body that are sunburned. It's really hard to stand.
oh, I'm so sorry.
That was my stupidity. What I wanted to show you guys was the bike that's in the back of the room is a brand new Tampa City Voucher e-bike. I qualified for one last year. It was $1,000, the standard voucher. $1,000 doesn't go a lot to a $3,000 e-bike. This year, because I was working 2 part-time jobs last year, lower income, I qualified for the $3,000 voucher, and basically I had to pay the sales tax. So it's a pedal assist. It's not, because I want to get some exercise. I don't want to be completely lazy. It'll go 35 miles in the turbo, which is like at 20 miles an hour, up to 63 miles on the lowest economy level. It'll go 63 miles. But you have to be pedaling. If you're not pedaling, it's not going. But one of the things I wanted to say was, I found out about this program through Cal Hardy at this convention 2 years ago. So I don't know if he's on, but you're going to be missed because I know he's leaving. But I mean, you can see that it actually works. The program is, they gave 130 bikes away this season, and I think they're going to give 150 vouchers in the fall. So, and all the person has to do is fill out the application, go get a bike bid, which I will tell you makes a huge difference. Because I didn't do that last year, and they gave me $1,000. I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do the bids? Toss me a quarter. But this year they had good advertising. They had bike fairs into city parks where the bike shops came and showed you the bikes. You got to test all the different bikes that were available. You got a bid, and you put in the bid with your application and your proof of income. And I know it's through the city, so the council member her time, please make sure that they, it works. It works. And then the other quick thing is, 2 years ago, I ran for the CAC through HARD. both Karen Kress and Lisa helped me like write my letters and things like that. And I came in second out of like 4 or 5 votes out of 13 people. And they came back to me this year and said, we saw your application. Do you want to run again? So on May 6th, Monday, May 6th, I'm going to be in front of Hart to be their representative to the CAC, see if I can do any better this year. So.
Right. Wonderful. Back to bilingual coordination. And I did just want to let you know that I actually had to fight to keep that bike money in the budget. Folks wanted to put 500,000 for sidewalks. And I said, no, because this will help way more people than a half a mile of sidewalk, because sidewalks cost about $1 million a mile. So I'm really glad to hear that it's been really successful. So I will bring your story during budget season and make sure that we keep it in the budget. I'm really glad to hear I'm so glad that they've learned and that you had such a great experience. So thank you.
And the goal is to ride the bus with the bike in the morning to work and then ride home in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So less congestion, exercise, all healthy things. So good job, city government.
Oh, it's really nice to hear good things. So what a great way to start the day. Thank you. Does everyone have a chance to look at the minutes? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so motion from Kevin, second from Gus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
I will note that our IT alternate emailed a correction to the attendance to the minutes that Gail made since we distributed the packet. So the only difference is that we acknowledged and corrected that he was present on. So whatever, I meant to say that.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we have some status reports. Congestion relief countermeasures on limited access to facilities and arterial.
Sounds fascinating, right?
Well, good thing that you have a group of people who know what that means.
Well, thank you so much, Councilwoman Pertuck and committee for having me today. My name is Alice Price, and I'm representing the Florida Department of Transportation and the Tampa Bay Smart Cities Alliance. While she seems to be getting the presentation, I just wanted to echo Mr. Ignace and thanks to Kevin up here on your committee for World Car Free Day last year. I bought my first e-bike, the co-op REI over in the Midtown area had demonstrations, which were super helpful to be able to kind of see what it was all about. So, and I got one that looked a lot cheaper than the 3,000, but it was also a level 1 pedal assist and experiencing some of the trails. So that's another. And I do think that it's a legitimate commuter tool. So as we're putting my DOT pad, a different one than this one, looking at how we get construction workers kind of in and out of our major construction projects. That e-bike program is just amazing. So it's something that we're promoting also at DT.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love to hear it. If anybody knows of others that want to maybe add to the city's grants, let us know.
Bass Street is a beautiful design.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome.
As is Jackson Street, the DOT program.
Right. Let's jump right in. I want to be considerate of your time today. So if you aren't aware, the Tampa Bay Smart Cities Alliance is a collaboration of public and private partners. The core team is comprised of the USF Center for Urban Transportation Research, FDOT, and City of Tampa. And then we're supported by a leadership team that we just convened that has the organizations that you see here, which the Hillsborough TPO is one of those. We've kind of expanded. So it is kind of a regional agency, but we're focused on how we use technology and innovation to improve transportation versus over just adding capacity. So we really want to be focused on that technology and innovation focus. We meet regularly and host quarterly meetings and workshops to explore new projects and new topics rooted in 3 basic platforms. Mobility as a service, regional data, and then reimagining infrastructure. So we're going to touch on each of those today, but we're really going to focus in on that reimagining infrastructure. Okay. The catalyst for this presentation was a piece of the TPO's LRTP presentation from November 2023. As you all know, you're working on your needs assessment. The organization's working on the needs assessment. And part of that focused on congestion management scenarios. So I think there were some questions about, well, what's really being done now? So I've duplicated those two slides there just to kind of take you back to where that conversation came from. The TPO came to us and asked us to present some information on what we do for construction, congestion management techniques that are currently under consideration. So I've kind of broken out the congestion management tools that we're looking at into what we're actually investing in right now in construction, and then what we're kind of testing out and planning in the pilot phase. So there's two groups there, and you can see some of those techniques that we use on the screen here. Those are not exclusive. There are other tools that we use. But we're just highlighting a few that I wanted to bring to your attention today. And also keep in mind that the DOT has a ton, and so does the cities and counties, a ton of projects that are already in design that have what we call ITS, Intelligent Transportation System components that also touch on that technology and innovation that will further help mitigate congestion. So one of the first things that I know has been talked about for years, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, is developing a managed lane system. We've been doing that for over a decade now. We're still evaluating the best way to be able to mitigate congestion. We've talked about dynamic pricing, which is pricing based on demand. We've talked about managing based on limiting access to those lanes. Ultimately, the system is planned to connect all the way from downtown St. Pete to downtown Tampa and then beyond, of course, to Orlando. In some of these locations, you'll see that the project will offer hard shoulder running and other transit opportunities to improve that portion of our transportation system. For example, high speed between the Howard Franklin Bridge can hold up to light rail when it's completed. And then there'll be a transit envelope, of course, through there, and then also through the West Shore area with connections throughout. In addition, you know, I know it's managed lanes, it's focused on interstate, but the department is trying to do it. It's hard to also add that additional bicycle and pedestrian connectivity at the community level throughout all these projects. So you probably heard Howard Franklin Bridge are going to have a new connection to be able to cross over Hillsborough County, and I've been testing out some of those. My little e-bike to try to see what those connections really are. Are they easy? How do you feel as a rider when you're on those systems? And I think we're going to have a good plan to get it all constructed. Another important tool in our toolbox is, of course, regional demand. You guys are very familiar, I'm sure. This became even more evident during COVID, and we were able to get a lot more of our construction projects done in a little bit quicker because of the less traffic. So that includes, of course, flexible work schedules, teleworking, and ride sharing. Typically in the past, we had been partnering with T-BARDA, but as you know, T-BARDA has sunsetted now. So they have been the ones that promote the car and the van pool program. We're now partnering with PSTA. So we have a brand new partnership that will continue that regional van pool program that was provided by Commute with Enterprise. So they are working to kind of keep that going, get it reinitiated and reinvigorized. Especially to me, very important as we're going into these heavy construction plants. It can be a great way to help change people's mindsets on the mode of travel that they take. So speaking of multimodal, we also have many numerous investments in transit throughout the past 10 years, and we're going to continue to partner on those. And as you know, that's just one more piece that we can take off the roadway to help improve congestion is with transit improvements. So DOT and our partners have also worked very hard to make significant investments in traffic operation and mentioned ITS, or Intelligent Transportation Systems. This is truly how we can reimagine our infrastructure. And you may have heard of the 3 projects that I have on screen here. I know we've given several project updates in the ITS committee. I'm not sure if they've come to this committee or not. But the first one's the integrated corridor management projects. which will install technology upgrades along 5 different corridors in Tampa's urban core to allow us to actively manage traffic throughout those systems. And then explore also transit signal priority and other transit enhancements that those technologies can help us to accomplish. These are along some of our heaviest diversion routes. You may not can see them, but it's MLK in Hillsborough, SR60, Tampa, Florida, or some, so both east, west, and north, south. They're some of our heaviest diversion routes that we expect the traffic to kind of move towards during construction, the West Shore and the downtown interchanges. So that's also helpful. Those projects should be finishing up by the end of the year. I-4 frame is kind of one of those ICMs on steroids because it's all the way from SR60 toward the airport area, all the way to Orlando. Again, it's like 77 miles along I-4 and 122 miles along adjacent corridors. So it's not just I-4, but it's along those adjacent corridors to allow improvements along the south, from Tampa to the southwest side of Orlando. In terms of congestion management, what we expect is speed harmonization, traffic incident management in a more proactive way, weather alerts, back and queue warnings, and vehicle to infrastructure messaging. So that's that communications piece that we can allow to be more real-time data provided to the cars from our system, actually. This one's going to finish up the Tampa part, the frame, the Tampa portion of that should be finished by the end of the year as well. And then the city's ATMS, Arterial Traffic Management System project, it's a citywide program to make technology improvements at 529 intersections within the district. So all these pieces together really, to me, is what I look forward to as a transportation planner, is how we use data to be able to predict and to manage our system better, right? So as I mentioned, as engineers and planners, I know people get frustrated with DOT sometimes with, some out of date, but I will say that there are a lot of great conversations on the rise, and you'll see new types of intersections being considered to evolve from that more traditional design to a more innovative approach. This will allow us also to move cars and freight more efficiently through the system, and also to enhance transit and bicycle pedestrian movements. You can see some of the examples down there. Jackson Street was one that Lisa threw out. I have that one as an example today. So I just want to transition real quick from the current investments into the things that we're kind of thinking about. So ones I just talked about, ones that are under construction. We presented the Smart Corridor project to the ITS committee, but I don't think I've ever been here. To me, the purpose of the pilot project was to explore how we can link all these tools and this technology into a comprehensive solution to help mobility and safety along the corridor. Phase 1 of the project focused on just really kind of helping define what that smart corridor approach would be. Everybody uses smart, but what does it really mean when we're talking about roadways or our roadway systems, if you will? A unique set of toolkits that we could apply, pick up and put these different types of tools along the corridor, maybe not the same approach for everyone for every corridor, because they're all unique in their needs and their offerings. And again, a flexible approach that actually leverages that top technology that, as you saw by the last slide, that we're going to have so much technology out there. You've got to be able to use that in a more efficient and more proactive manner so that we can manage traffic better. This is just a real quick graphic and just an example of some of the tools you may have heard of before that you're considering. To us, a smart corridor is a stretch of roadway where technology connects with the community in real time and can really dynamically manage travel. This, like I said, just depicts a few of the tools that we have, and it's not necessarily exclusive. We can use a different set of tools also for arterials than we do for highways. But also, but there you can see there's both active and kind of passive utilization here. There's transit opportunities, there's bicycle and pedestrian safety measures that can all be incorporated into one. So we defined what it was, and now we're getting ready to look at phase 2. So we really want to look at specific corridors where we want to kind of experiment and show the value in the smart corridor concept. The intent for the phase two is to actually prepare a concept design and an operations strategy and really just kind of prove the concept that it works. And then be able to prioritize for funding. And then also perform some marketing and outreach to kind of roll out the concepts to the public to make sure there's true value there from a public perception as well. This was the last topic at our leadership team meeting. So I asked them, what corridors do you want to look at? And remember, it's a regional group, so it's beyond just Hillsborough. That there were other corridors that were suggested that I drew on screen here. A lot of discussion around US 19, not 19 in Pinellas County, as well as Hillsborough County and 275 here in Hillsborough. We discussed developing a matrix. We do a little matrix that highlights or compares safety, congestion, connectivity, access, multimodal technology, and future land use and other things, just to kind of say, okay, which one has the most value, the most opportunity for improvement. So I want to just, the last couple of slides are just to kind of cover the other platforms that Tech-Based Smart Cities Alliance is a part of. Mobility as a service is something that we have been focused on from the very beginning. And the city was a great partner in taking ownership of the mobility as a service pilot project that we did last year. I know Margaret Kubelin's, I'm not sure if y'all, I know you guys are very aware of Margaret. She's a bicycle advocate and pedestrian in the community, a great advocate for the city as well, or a great representative of the city. She took the lead on the project, and I feel like the initial pilot was very successful first time. Moss is a hard topic to tackle, and if you look nationwide and even global, there are some struggles in just getting the payment side back, and then being able to incorporate all the systems and all the private vendors that, and especially with our system here where it's a little less mature, right, in terms of transit. So as we mature, it's a great step to have had under our belt that we can grow in the future. And that MoveIt was the provider of that service, and it's still out there. So even though the pilot is ended, the MoveIt service is still available to use.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I guess I don't really understand mobility as a service.
Yeah, mobility as a service is a way to provide, let me go back to the slide because it's nicer when you can see it there. It's a comprehensive kind of journey planning from point to point that is able to pull in multiple modes of transportation. So if you're from Pasco County and you want to get into a ball game, you could jump on that app and, you know, depending on what service, if there was a regional service, it could tell you the regional, and then it could tell you also that first mile, last mile options. And the idea ultimately is one app that gives you that trip from point to point, that gives you the ability to pay all in one place. So if you had to jump on a scooter at the end, or you had to jump on an Uber or whatever it is, the idea would be to combine that all into one app. Very advantageous, right? Not easy to do. And certainly here where we have a little less mature system, kind of harder to pull together from a regional standpoint.
Well, Flamingo Affairs is working a little bit.
Yes,
It's
yes.
not perfect.
That's one service. You can pay for your scooter on Flamingo there. Moving, you can pay for a ride from the beginning.
Okay.
And the idea would be, if it's Flamingo Fair that's providing that, it's just one, app for you to be able, wherever that payment goes. I think what we've kind of found, Margaret and I have talked a lot about the deeper integration of MoveIt with scooters and micromobility. And they're a little reluctant. It has to be worth their while from a business standpoint to be able to come into the system. So that's kind of the next step we're looking at, since we don't have the, a train that's coming in or another, kind of premium transit mode. It's how do we pull together the boats that we do have in order to make that journey a bit easier and the ability to get home. Does that help? Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll just mention real quick, we're also, again, I mentioned the data side of all the projects that were coming in. The department, actually the TPO started this movement about 3 years ago. They created the early versions of a regional data platform. We've now grown that, and we are experimenting internally, and we are adding access for our partners to be able to get in. And the idea is just basically share data, right? Like it seemed to be in the old days, we were kind of protective of the information we want, and then we would have a variety of data sources that, kind of competed with each other. So the idea is to have a one-stop shop for all things safety, mobility, crashes, environmental, multimodal. And again, this is something that's built in one phase and then can grow to future, but it'll allow us to also proactively manage data in the future. And an important piece of that is a work zone data exchange, which I'm super excited about. I'm trying to hurry up because I'm been long. With all this construction that's going on, it's our ability to pull in all those construction plans and lane closures into one system so that we can better let the public know what those are. So often you know what the city's doing, the city knows what the city's doing, DOT knows what the DOT's doing, but we don't often know what each other unless it's such a manual phone call. So we're trying to automate that. And I'll just kind of leave it with that. There's a lot of things on the horizon that we talk about from a Tampa Bay Smart Cities perspective, things that we don't want to lose sight of, that are a little bit aspirational, if you will, that we want to still have on our conversation and be able to move forward with. And I will just leave you with a safety message. Where's the safety message here? Remember, work zones are temporary, but actions behind the wheel can last forever. So please be careful in your work zones. Any questions?
Emily, in your data gathering, what sort of bike ped data are you gathering? Like, how are you doing that? What kind of technology are you using?
So what I want to do is pull in the wonderful data that the city's been collecting with, I know Metric has the detectors that they've been working. I want to be able to pull that. It's actually a wonderful addition to the regional data platform. And then I think the city, we gained some of the monitoring that that the state DOT was doing. We have those at DOT, I believe now. So I'm trying to figure out, how to figure out where those need to go so that we can continue to collect data on multiple systems too. So are there other data sources you feel like would be?
I mean, I've heard about different technologies that would have to be implemented.
Yeah.
One thing I would particularly like to see would be congestion management for bike ped. And since I work around school areas, particularly at major school crossings, we have several, say along Dale Mabry, when you have a couple hundred students trying to cross within a quick one light, it ends up being a very dangerous situation. You gotta get the cars through fast, but the kids gotta stand there on the corner. And they don't always do a great job of it since they're teenagers. So I would just be interested to see that included in it, and along with that would be the automatic pedestrian light.
Yep.
Because there's the technology that senses whether there are pedestrians present without requiring them to push a button.
That's different than the leading pedestrian intervals, right?
Different from a leading
Yep.
pedestrian. I mean, they should go together.
Yeah, right.
It's separate from that. So like when you are coming up to a light,
It's
the sensors know that you are there, rather than you have to try to find wherever the button is, because it's not always accessible to everybody.
I'll need to follow it. I know we're planning to experiment with some of that technology, but I'm not sure where we have what the results were. So
Yeah, I would say if you're starting on gathering data, I felt like most of what you were talking about was very car-based, some transit-based. And so if it's going to be truly multimodal, it needs to start counting bikes and pedestrians.
Great.
Scooters.
And scooters.
Yeah. Lisa,
I just wanted to follow up. That popped in, and especially since Ben is in the room. This committee saw last month our multimodal count data that we wanted to share with all the resources. The committee said, oh my gosh, we couldn't even make this available to everybody. And so there's even a little summit being designed to like get clear about where else do we need to count? How do we need to use this? Who do we need to share it with? And how do we share it appropriately? So stay tuned, and Karen Kress and Ben Money are recorded behind you are doing that.
Awesome.
And then it's such an important topic that some of our DPO staff are presenting at our general staff meetings, our land use planners and stuff are aware of this great data out there now. So we're going to tell them.
It's not just DOT's data going in. It's your data
Yeah.
coming in too, and everybody has access to the same.
Kevin,
Just to piggyback on counts again. I know DOT and at least in Pinellas County, over Roseville has gotten some near miss counts, which is similar to pedestrian and bicyclist counts. But I think in the span of smart kind of going in the theme of smart cities, I found it to be really eye-opening, especially when you're calculating the near misses between bicyclists and pedestrians. So I don't know if this is actually a question, just more a matter of echoing the sentiment in the room, which is trying to every municipality, at least in Hillsborough County, it seems to be interested in doing non-motorized counts, whether that is for bicyclists and pedestrians on other roads and comparing the three with motorist counts to identify commuting patterns. I know we've done that in the West Shore District through the Alliance, and I know the Downtown Partnership has done it. So as much as the collaboration that Smart Cities already has can bring that into the fold with the existing data sharing, I think would be very transformative because we already know that we have a lot of traffic on our roads. We know when the pressure points are, and we know a little bit more of that picture, but there really is a lot more of the story to be told around how folks are getting around using other modes, because it's not going to be the volume that you see with cars, but it's significant, and it's how we can start to base justify investment.
Thank you, thank you.
And I'll piggyback on that just to say that I mean, this was definitely motorized vehicle centric, meaning like cars and trucks, and understandable. But as we go forward, I really like your interest in that. And I think that, push from these types of committees to say, hey, we'd like to see more of this, because to be quite honest, pedestrian, scooter, bicyclist, even bus, all of that infrastructure considerably cheaper than anything we can do on a roadway for cars. It just is. I mean, looking at the percentage. So anything we can do to further this along, to just try to get a small percentage of FDOT budget for that. And I was going to ask a couple of questions. The ATMS, who is paying for that?
So I believe, and this is a city question, if anybody's from the city, and I DOT took a portion of that. Do you remember if they got a grant? So I think it's joint city and DOT. I don't know if there's federal funds.
Okay. Yeah, just as an interest. And I also noticed that, and I think a lot of this counting can help, but when you were on the transit slide, everything is studies. And there's very few things that we've been able to finish just because of funding. So just keeping that in mind of these counts being able to help us focus on, I like to really think of people instead of the mode, like how do we get people around? And sometimes that takes the frustration out, or people who are car centered. You're just talking about moving people. Like, what is our best way to move people? And just inherently, it's mass transit. It's these all smaller ways. So, seeing what's next. And I noticed you have hard shoulder in on the interstates, and I'm still completely scared by hard shoulder, because I don't think we as Floridians don't understand the concept of, if there's a lane, I can't be in it. So I'm very curious how, if we were going to use a hard shoulder, what do we do to make sure that it's only used for buses or other types of transit, or however we wanted to look at it, emergency vehicles, however we want to use it. And then I noticed you mentioned that downtown interchange. And from my understanding, that's just like the I-4 connector. Has that been brought back to blow up again?
No, the safety and operational. Yes, is what I was referring to.
That's what I figured. I figured that better. So thank you. And then I think Omar had his hand up.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Omar, I'm a planner at Art. I just want to say first, great presentation, really informative. And I really like just the pieces on the mobility as a service, like the app, like the one-stop shop. Just from my perspective, I think it's really good to have it all in one place. Just I always think about someone like visiting, like Tampa, like coming into the airport. I know, like when I fly to like different places, I like try to figure out, okay, how do I use the bus or whatever to get to where I need to go? And usually when bus is an option, it's like, okay, I got Uber, which not ideal. But I like the idea because it's, for someone that's coming in, I mean, ideally, we want to get to a point where they open an app. It's like, okay, I can take this bus, then maybe if I need to like ride a scooter or walk and go. And I just think it really promotes collaboration between like, people who work on the bus side and the scooter side. And it just kind of helps facilitate those conversations. So, yeah, just any way that art can be a better partner too, we're happy to help and jump into it.
I love coming to this meeting.
I saw that Colorado was a candidate for, so I really like to push Valor because that's our division district, is a division district. And so anything innovative we can do to solve some problems there would be really cool. Just because of, what we're trying to do out there.
It was our initial, because I felt like it touched 275, it touches 75, it goes through the innovation district, our college, DT's up there. So to me, they're in 3 jurisdictions with Terrace, Tampa, and Hillsborough County. So I really loved that quarter. They were doing so much to it. They were like, probably should step back. So, but I will say, if this committee, even individuals, if you are interested in any of those corridors and a why, like, send it to me because it's semi-scientific and that we're planners and I'm trying to do a matrix to see which ones rise to the top. But truly public is part of that, right? So, if there's an interest in specific corridors, please let me know.
Arizona.
Anyway, well, you know, I do probably into the,
Okay, great.
and the feeling, you don't want to use them for other, we all use, when we have to get thousand feet in that sidewalk, a block, for the sidewalk, a block. But we also use thousand feet in the month of the month, building, everything.
That's great. Yeah, use Jackson Street cycle track. Great. So here.
Awesome.
Kudos. Yeah. So anyone else? Gus?
I was like one of the youngest people in terms of like length of time on the committee. Is it possible to get a map of what road you guys are responsible for? Like it's obviously 275.
Yes.
But now I live between Howard and Armenia. Someone said, "Oh, that's a state road." I'm like, what?
Actually, that came up in the regional data platform. We'd like to have a layer that differentiates that. Even for ourselves, sometimes it's hard, even within the city limits, there's county roads in there, so it does get confusing. So yes, that is possible, yes.
Okay. Good, just so, I don't know, who I know to complain to.
So another thing Smart Cities was looking at is like a regional click and fix kind of thing. So it didn't matter to you, whose road it is. You could go into one system and say, we're having a problem here. And then it'd be our responsibility to route that to the right people. So that's something else that was on the horizon that we're looking at too, that would be helpful.
Howard and Armenia are getting worse.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess coming from Philly, I know why we get potholes, because we fault the roads. I don't understand where the potholes are coming from in Howard and Armenia. I mean, they're just every intersection, giant potholes and patches, and I can't even imagine what it's like for somebody in a wheelchair to try to cross any of those intersections, because I can barely ride them on a bike. So, I mean, really needs. I've heard of those 2 streets talked about as long as I've been coming here. Nothing been done.
They have actually started in Howard. Yeah, resurfacing is imminent. Yeah, refinancing has started. It's the Main Street area, that has already started. So it's going to be going up.
It's going north from the highway. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of those things you see going on around down at the short interchange are the smart trip stuff being implemented in advance of the. The Howard and Armenia are county roads. So just.
Okay. So I don't know. County, what city, what state? Could Gandy is a state highway?
Gandy is a state, yes.
Okay.
I even have to think.
Just
Anyone else? Well, thank you so
Yes,
much. I really, it's really nice to hear, people working on this that are also avid users of multimodal systems. So it's always nice to see that. What a great way to start our day.
Thank you for having.
Yeah, and we had a robust discussion, so I'm not gonna play your little video, that documentary video, that it's in the chat. You can go back and look at, I may forward it to you by email.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I see Justin on screen. So I think we just have to put his presentation up. Maybe he wants to share his screen. Yeah, Justin, would you prefer to share yours? Yeah, great. Hey. You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
All right, all good?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you again virtually. I was gonna come, but you know how it goes, so here I am. I'm gonna give you an update on the Tampa Arterial BRT and Circulator. These were the two service-related items on the TPO priority list. And with that, I'll get started. So these were number 5 BRT and number 8 the Circulator for capital and operations. Little background timeline. This project has been around quite some time. We started it in 2019 with a recommended alignment through phase 1. We advanced phase 2A and developed a lower cost alternative given the funding uncertainty at that time, got hard board approval, and we proceeded with the design of that lower cost alternative in March of 22. There was a little bit of a delay in getting that restarted, but we've been working since May of 23 to advance that design, and we will conclude our work under the FDOT funded grant in FDOT's fiscal year, which ends in July. Alice can fact check that since she's in the room. And yeah, we're gonna have a pretty solid advanced design. Unfortunately, it probably won't get as far as we were hoping, given the unanticipated delays. You see some gaps in this timeline. I will not elaborate on why those gaps exist, but they did delay a lot of our production related to this item. And so we won't have a fully designed project, but we will have a really good plan in place to advance outside of the FDOT grant. The overview, the BRT is planned to connect downtown to USF and the communities in between. And I like to highlight the communities in between because the intention is to connect the ends, but it's really about giving people in between the two destinations better access to better transit to go either direction, but to provide a long-term relatively congestion-proof service. The red areas you see there are where we propose to have a dedicated lane. And we want to really improve those travel times. But we want to connect the USF area to downtown, operate at improved frequencies with marginal increases in operating costs, which basically means the existing great service we have there would be even better at a very similar cost, because we have such a big investment of basically 7 to 8 vehicles per weekday, at operating today at an average speed of say 15 miles an hour. The service would be between 18 and 20, so we could operate it more frequently and provide an even better service. And then this is another explanation of the travel time savings. In the afternoon rush hour, and this is even dated now that the construction on 275 has made things even worse for anybody trying to go north-south through the life of that construction. This travel time northbound that was 80 minutes on a bad day before construction can be even worse. We schedule that service today at about 46 minutes. That's if everything goes well. And the BRT would deliver that connection in about 32 to probably 38 minutes, depending on the level of investment with transit signal priority, how much of the lane is actually dedicated for transit, and some other details that we work out through the design process and implementation. But we're really trying to make that service more reliable all day by having dedicated lanes for the transit service. Current status, not so great news. The most recent grant application that was submitted under the Reconnecting Communities subcomponent of that was a neighborhood access and equity. And I want to highlight the subcomponent of that because this was a very unique opportunity. It was a federal grant that was 100% federally funded. That is very rare. That is probably not going to happen again. And actually, we had a debrief last week with the feds about our application, and they told us that the next round this year will not be 100% under that neighborhood access and equity component. It will just be reconnecting communities, which will require a match. So we may not be in a position to even apply for it because we don't have a match. We are hoping to maybe piece together some funding sources through a variety of different options we're exploring now with the city and Hart and the county. But the total grant application we submitted was $45 million. So the minimum match will be 20%. So that's a pretty hefty, you know, even if we reduce the cost of the full project, we're still looking somewhere between 5 and 7 million as a local match to get that application filled out. So we'll be working with our partners to try to get some commitments. Should we be able to submit an application, if it's successful, maybe we can attract some other partners to help us come up with that money. The other item that we have on the TPO priority list is the streetcar, interim streetcar extension circulator. Basically, we're proposing to operate a circulator on what would be the streetcar extension alignment up to Palm Avenue, but to go even further and connect that over to Ybor on Palm, and basically have this as the placeholder circulator service until the streetcar project is funded and constructed. We are working with the city to identify the 50% operating funding match, which would be 600,000, half of the 1.2 million annually, to submit an application to DOT to probably go after service development funds to get 3 years of 50% match from DOT, and have that be the interim service until the streetcar extension is built. So we're probably going to be submitting that in the next few months. We're still waiting to button up the commitment from the city. They've currently committed 2 years at $400,000 per year, because originally we wanted to just do the extension to Palm, but the ridership numbers didn't look great. So we thought we could strengthen the application by extending it and closing the loop to Ybor, and that did pan out, as you see there in the bottom right. The fare-free extension, which is what we are moving forward with as zero fare circulator, is over 1,100 weekday riders, and it became a much more complete service, but it did increase the cost. We would use 2 vehicles to operate that, and right now we're contemplating including those 2 vehicles in a grant application for a big bus purchase under the low and no emissions grant program. We are looking to fully convert the rest of our fleet to CNG, compressed natural gas. I think we're putting 25 to 30 vehicles in that application. Omar knows the details because he helped with that. But we're looking to mark 3 of those specific for the circulator so we can brand them. And that's where that stands. So that's kind of the more short-term goal, is to get that service up and running, and we think it'll be really successful given the amount of development on the Florida and Tampa corridor and the amount of generators in Ybor, and really complement and complete the streetcar, the success that we're currently all experiencing. So the long-term vision is really, you know, a robust, more regionally significant BRT service from USF to downtown, serving the Heights communities, Sulphur Springs, North Tampa, and the business district and USF, with a complementary circulator service and eventually the streetcar. So we continue to work with FDOT on their variety of their projects. The Heights Raise grant, they're still working to construct that project. The Fowler Avenue PD&E has kind of wrapped up, and we're working with DOT to see what that's going to look like. And then we're still evolving the service plan in the interim for the Florida and Tampa corridor. It is the best corridor we have transit service on, other than really Fletcher could compare, but the different services that are overlaid on the Florida Tampa corridor now serve a lot of riders, a lot of jobs, and really is the kind of the future as we see it for bus transit in the region and in the city. And that's pretty much my update. I'll take any questions.
Arizona.
You got the one, 15 to 5, and 9, from down there to you, which one of those laws is going to be putting on that, different schedule?
Justin, he said, as I heard it, was like the route 18, 5, and 9 go from S House to USF and 12. So which ones of those are impacted by this project?
Really just the Route 1 would be basically modified or replaced with the BRT service. That is the plan for now, and that is how we have this as a funded operational service. We don't have the capital to construct it, but we do have the operating dollars that are associated with the Route 1. So it would be basically be a big stop consolidation effort on the Florida Avenue corridor with a realignment in the northern end, and we would replace some of that service on Florida Avenue north of Linebaugh to replace the existing Route 1 service.
And if my favorite, you go through it, one, how you the new bus that is this far with the wheelchair, you know, get on the bus on your own. You don't have to use that to look down. That would take a long time for people on that one.
He suggested on Route 1, if you use the new bus with the easier ADA access, that would save a lot of time because he can enter the bus by himself without an ace.
Don't I know it, Arizona? I agree. We would ideally we would be using new CNG buses with that technology, but that's not part of the 45 million. We're planning on basically including that in our normal vehicle replacement cycle. So the actual capital that we were requesting in the grant application was specifically associated with roadways, intersections, and stations. And then the vehicles would be a separate purchase in our normal vehicle replacement cycle, and as a way to reduce project costs and just try to get this project moving along.
Then on the left, about the trolley, you get the one, the 11. How are you gonna, you gonna put them on?
He's mentioned the streetcar stops 1 through 11, how you get it to Paul.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a circulator that's a rubber tire option. It's an interim.
So I won't be the trolley, the other one will be.
As an interim, until they can find construction dollars.
And they'll have a little bit,
He's asking if there'll be a lift on the streetcar circulator.
Can you say that again, Lisa? I'm sorry.
Will there be a lift on the circulator for the streetcar? A wheelchair lift?
Yeah, they would be the regular CNG buses. We're probably gonna try to get 30 footers, so they're a little bit smaller and easier to work and have more flexibility on our routing. Particularly in Ybor, you know, the 42 footers are a little bit tough, but we can do it. We've already tested it with the big ones. We just thought that the smaller-
you know, you can use the little, thing that you use the, they, little,
He likes the little yellow buses that St. Pete uses, just so you know.
Okay.
Kevin.
Hi, Justin. Quick question for you on the streetcar circulator. I noticed just in the map you had a couple slides back on the streetcar bank, Does the project, as proposed, include any kind of new station modifications or upgrades to existing stations, or is HART just using the existing station infrastructure that's currently at those available stops?
Yeah, it's a great question. We just met with the CRA director at the city to try to look at if there's any potential for funding bus stop improvements specifically from CRA funding. And we are going to put a few associated with this circulator in some of those estimates that we try to get funded through the CRA. But generally, we could and would put this service out there at the existing stops as they are today. But we are working to try to enhance a few of them. The main one of interest here is where that route ends in Ybor. If you're familiar with the Kudrecha station, which is just outside of the streetcar barn where I'm at now, between basically the parking garages of Ybor, the Palm Avenue garages, the southern on the eastern side of those garages is, I think, 13th Street. So we kind of envision that as more of a bus centric hub in the future, and we want to really try to get all of our existing bus service to kind of feed that streetcar station for people trying to get into the core of downtown and Water Street. So this is consistent with activating 13th Street as a more of a bus centric place. So that's probably the main area of focus for an enhancement to the existing stops, but other stops along this alignment, we are also going to try to improve those because they're also consistent with long-term BRT on Florida and Tampa. But so really we're going to focus on Florida and Tampa bus stop improvements and then a little bit of enhancement at the Ybor garages as we try to activate that more for the connection to the streetcar.
And just a follow up, I know this is interim. Is there any part of this project that kind of alludes to or potentially uses? I know it's going to be different alignments, but what stations or stops are kind of alluding to future streetcar stops once you have the full extension? Just to kind of, you're putting up a pop-up service, making sure that folks know like transit is here to stay in this corridor going into the future.
So the BRT, say we had just won the BRT grant, we would be designing the stations on Florida and Tampa to eventually serve the streetcar extension. Because now that it's
Kathy Coyle, you're unmuted.
yeah, there she is. So basically, unless the BRT gets funded before the streetcar, then we wouldn't build any. If we touch anything on Florida and Tampa, we want to make it level boarding for the bus, which works for the historic streetcar. Now that project is not modern vehicle and has kind of changed since it was originally intended to be modern vehicles, that kind of makes it a little bit easier in my opinion. But now that the project development process with FTA is going to get back started up for the streetcar process, that's kind of there's some uncertainty around exactly what those stations would look like. So the Florida Avenue side is easier. Tampa Street's a little trickier because of where the guideway would be and that sort of thing. So we're just, I don't know. Did I answer your question? Should I just stop talking?
No, you did. I do have one last follow-up, and thank you for playing ball. I know I'll ask this for Karen and Casey's sake. The Downtown Partnership has a new Dash point-to-point service. I know their service is heavily contingent on transit stops as they try to encourage users of that service to, not necessarily use Dash if public transit can take their trip and get them there faster. Has there been any conversation with the partnership so that they can, I imagine that given that this is going to capture a large part of downtown that's currently served by their service, is there any kind of conversations that they can make sure they get out of your way? All purpose intended.
Yeah, so one of the things that the partnership does now is if the streetcar can serve the trip that is being requested, it does not dispatch the dash to do that. It tells people, go get on the streetcar. Don't be silly type message, something like that. I haven't seen the message. What we have always asked is for that to evolve into our frequent bus routes that do the same thing. Florida Avenue Route 1 connects Whiting to Palm Avenue right now. Southbound particularly well. Northbound, there's a little bit of a delay because it goes through the Marion Transit Center. So we would like that folded into their application. So if somebody is at Sprouts at the Armature Works location and they are trying to get to downtown on Tampa Street or to Whiting streetcar station, we would like the message to say, there's a bus coming in 3 minutes anyway, get on that. So that's kind of the next step that we would like to see the partnership do with that service, and not wait for the circulator to be stood up to implement that. But that is our expectation is if the circulator goes in, that is the accommodation that the dash service would make so that we're not competing with each other for riders. And given that the circulator would be free, that makes a lot of sense. But currently the Route 1 and our base fare is $2, the same as dash. So we think that it makes sense to just do it now because we need to get more people on transit that exists now, especially the frequent great service, because we only have a handful of really, really good frequent routes in our network.
And that led me to one last question. You're saying that the circulator is going to be free?
That's what we're proposing.
Oh.
The ridership numbers weren't as good with a fare. So our proposal is to operate it free, to make sure that it's well used and it's the best investment of our money.
Beautiful. That's all I got. Thank you, Justin.
Anyone else? Gus?
Free. Can it not be a half fare paid with the Flamingo card? Can that be considered? Because I know everybody likes free things, but I used to ride the Sunrunner in St. Pete, and the homeless population of the Sunrunner was very tumbled once they started to charge, and it started to raise some revenue. Because I know there's certain county commissioners that are like, where's the revenue on art? Where's the revenue on art? Where's the revenue on art? Because the average bus ride, 225 is not, I think it's 86 cents is the average revenue generated on a art bus from federal programs and everything else. So yay for it to be free, but how about in 50 cents being it doesn't have to be $2, but at least we get some revenue in to help support. I mean, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm looking like at 15 different stations, and every station has a sponsor on the main trolley line. Why are we not getting sponsors to build these stations for these other lines? My other concern is, are you using a real bus on the circulator, or is it a trolley bus? One of those touristy trolley to buy into the whole trolley concept. And I don't know about handicapped on the trolley. I can't get a bike on it. It says in the brochure you can put a bike on the trolley.
So no, we're not. Let me go ahead. No, we're not talking about the trolleys. We're talking about a 30-foot low floor CNG vehicle that did have its unique branding that is to be determined. And like I said, we are not proposing a fare because it is a complement to the free streetcar. And the time it takes for people to pay their fare, the labor included in counting quarters and stuff is just not really worth it. And the money that we are getting from the partners in this, which would be the city to operate and potentially FDOT, would be greater than the fare box return that this service would generate anyway. And it would decrease the ridership. So it makes more sense to just have it fare free because you can operate it faster. It's a better service and the ridership will be higher, and therefore the cost per trip for people that do ride it, the average cost per trip will be lower because you'll get more people on it than it would be with a fare. So,
but the non-fare is not really free. The state's paying for that, right?
The city.
Yeah, just like the highway, when you don't pay a fare to drive on 275, somebody's paying for that road.
Right. Okay. I thought it was FDOT that was paying for the trolley.
It was, but that ended.
And,
Yeah, that was 3 years.
okay.
Yeah, that's running out this year is the last of that.
The city has found it so useful that we're gonna help pay for that. We do have, yeah, Arizona.
They had a little,
The electric one?
yeah, when it was no down, everybody.
Oh, it was a pilot?
That was nice.
Yeah,
That's what they do.
it may be something pursuing in the future.
That's what they do to use that.
How we get the electric dash. Okay, Gus.
Omar and I have been talking, and part of, we're fixed on the fixed guideway transportation to get us to the next level, which is like rail or light rail. We considered using trackless trolleys. That's what we call them in Philly. Electrified buses, so that they don't use gas, they're rubber tired, they have the ability to move off of, strict restriction guideways, I guess is the correct word. Have we looked at that as an alternative? Maybe pre-trolley, post-bus, pre-trolley, if you put in a trackless trolley from the one end to the circulator. I'm just putting that out there as a suggestion.
I mean, yeah, we've thought about that before. I mean, basically bus rapid transit is a fixed guideway if you build it right. If it's in its own lane, that's technically a fixed guideway. That's according to the FTA's definition. But yeah, the autonomous transit in a fixed bus lane or mixed traffic is not really tested technology. So we're not entertaining that for the BRT project. We're just trying to get a lane to get out of congestion mostly and allow some right turns in that lane. But, the FTA calls bus rapid transit fixed guideway too. So it's not just rail, and, those technologies are emerging. So we're not trying to jump into that at this point.
Christian. You have to unmute yourself.
Yep. Hey, I just wanted to chime in a little bit on the cost of the trolley. And so, of course, again, it's awesome when things are free, and it really encourages ridership. And living in Ybor and going to downtown, I definitely saw a marked difference in ridership as soon as it became free. All of a sudden it was packed. But I do think that there's a couple of considerations. One thing that I would say is, one of my worries is that people that aren't involved in this conversation often think that there's enough money, we're just not spending it right. And they have this idea that, like, it's just misspent. And my concern in long-term thinking is, if we provide something for free, that might just continue that thought pattern. So what I would say is, something just to consider different ways of raising some revenue or making some charge. And for example, like at Busch Gardens, you buy a ticket and then you get to go for the rest of the year free. Like it's a very hard cost up front, but once you already buy in, you're in. And I'm not saying that it should be very expensive or prohibitive or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, just kind of if we can pull this off for free, if we can do something that would be a symbolic, like, hey, it's $10 to get on, but once you get on, or it's 20, like something that would be easy for the people that are going to be using it, repeatedly for things or, you know, like something like that. I would just, not that I have any answers or anything, but I just want to add that out and put it in the ether for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I think it's a delicate balance between let's get enough people on transit to show that it's viable and let's pay for it. And I think we're at a stage right now where we're just trying to get people on transit. Once they
Yeah.
see that they can get that loop going, but they could stop on Palm Avenue in Florida and hop on the one and go north, that changes things.
Yeah.
But we just want to get as many people as we can. I mean, this is the way I see it, getting as many people you can on public transit, regardless if it's free or yeah, and that's the number one way to get people to ride in is if it's free.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And like I said, I did see that change in ridership, and that makes perfect sense. So maybe it'd be like a couple of years down the road, like, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
When
everyone, it's going to be free for X amount of years, and then whatever. But I agree with that, Councilwoman.
when the grant runs out, we may have to entertain that. But the idea here is, most of our existing customers are already, their payment has been captured on the other bus system as they would get down to the service. But people that already live down there, that aren't using transit would be incentivized to use it because it's so frequent, so free, so fast because you don't have to pay. And then it really speaks for itself. But it benefits everybody, the existing riders that have already paid and the people who don't currently use transit.
Rebecca.
I wasn't aware that there were this many sponsors for those stops. And I think we should make a bigger deal about that. So the ride is free to you, but the ride isn't free. Somebody is sponsoring it. And I think that needs to have, people need to be more aware, somebody is paying for it. Right. Sure, no, it's free to me, so it's a big kid. So I don't know if the sign and stuff that says your ride today has been sponsored by this company or CRA or whatever. But I think we need to make a bigger deal out of our sponsors.
You also make a bigger deal about the roads are free. Yeah, no worries. DOT and the TPO.
But the stations, particularly the cost of construction on these stations, because they are elevated, they're already existing. I mean, where's the Raymond James station? Where's the Buck station? You know, we have these large moneyed organizations in this community. Maybe they're spending their money other places, but I don't see it because I'm not seeing it on the transit system.
Well, we're projecting more revenue than we've ever had for streetcar station sponsorships this year and next year. And I think they're almost all fully sponsored. And that revenue that Hart works to help generate actually just saves the city money and then comes out of what they owe Hart to operate the streetcar. And I think we're projecting that at about $500,000 a year next year. So if you're referring to bus station advertisement, we do get some advertisement. Sorry, my screen just went blank. But those are through a marketing contract, and those are at bigger stations with the big panels on them. And Kevin knows a little bit about that. We're talking about some stuff in West Shore. But we've never gotten more revenue than we're getting right now for the streetcar, which is helping offset the costs that the city is going to have to come up with for the administrative costs and for the making up the funding gap for FDOT next year. So we're doing a lot on that front.
I was particularly asking about the circulator stations to get the new stations built.
Yeah.
North, so,
I got you.
go ahead, don't worry about that right now.
Omar.
Oh, yeah, I know we're kind of short on time too, and we can have a very long debate about zero fare and all that too, but just like one quick point, at my previous job, we worked with Manatee County, MCAT. They recently went zero fare completely on their whole system. We did a study for them, and we found that in the case of, and Justin mentioned it too, that a lot of times just the cost of collecting the fare, it's more than what it costs to actually collect, like the fare box recovery ratio. And typically, like very few transit agencies, like really only like New York and Chicago. Those are the ones that make real sizable revenue from their fares. In Florida, another zero fare agency, St. Lucie County, we talked to when we were doing that study. They've been zero fare for quite some time, and they've liked it quite a bit. They get an FDOT grant that supports their zero fare. They're a very small system too, but I think in terms of the marketing point, just like having conversations about this, I think we call it free fare a lot, but really, I mean, someone is paying for it. I think there's a version saying like, oh, we don't want free stuff or all this, or some like obviously someone's paying for it. So a lot of places kind of moved to calling it zero fare because it's not free, someone's paying for it. And also just thinking of it in terms of like you go to the library, you're not paying to go there to use their books unless you're past due. I think actually Hillsborough County, that they take out, yeah, it's free, so even better. But I think it just comes in terms of how we talk about it, free fare versus zero fare. Like it's not.
Community good.
Yeah, community good, exactly.
There's also, on that note, I'll make this super quick. The idea of profit is only exclusive to public transit. I find profit not to be a conversation when it comes to our roadways and to how we fund road improvement. It seems as though there's no intent for there to be a profitability on a brand new road other than it to be a public service and the public good. But yet, when we talk about transit, if there's no profitability, it seems as though it's taxpayer waste. And last I checked, I think the expansion of Lithia Pinecrest Road was $200 million. And the BRT project, Justin, if you could, is around 45 million. Is that right?
Yep.
So one is being required to have a sense of profit and a fare, which I can tell you as someone who grew up over by Fishhawk and over in that area, that if you put a fare to use an expanded Lithia Pinecrest Road, pretty sure you would see pitchforks at County Center in due order. Great point, Mark. Sorry. Got us on one.
It's like, pick some good topics today.
All right, Chair Tag had to step out for a minute, so I guess if there's no more comments, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
And that is MC Community Air Monitoring Network, presented by Lizzie Baker from Planning Commission.
Good morning. Can you see my screen?
Okay, now it's there. We're good.
Okay, thank you. Lizzie Baker, Planning Commission staff, and working with the TPO on this project. I am presenting to you on the Community Air Monitoring Network project this morning. We are working with the University of South Florida as well as the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County and numerous community organizations. And we are installing low-cost air quality monitors in underserved communities along the interstates. So this project actually started out as a pilot study in 2021 based on the suggestion of the TPO's Technical Advisory Committee, as well as concerns that we heard expressed from the community around the same time about air pollution near the interstates. And so based on that, we applied for and received grant funding from Federal Highway, and we conducted a pilot study. And that pilot study would go on to test and analyze low-cost air quality monitors. We also engaged the community and provided access to the data from those monitors. We established pilot community air monitoring sites, and we also developed methods to establish a larger community air monitoring network. So during the pilot study, USF identified Purple Air and the Clarity Node S, which you can see on the screen, as the most suitable monitors for community air monitoring. And those monitors are installed at 7 pilot community air monitoring sites. They still exist today and will be moving forward as well. So in addition to that, USF and EPC co-located or placed those monitors next to EPC regulatory monitors for testing and calibration or data correction. And based on the success of that pilot study, we applied for and received additional funding from the EPA and Federal Highway to expand the study and develop a larger community air monitoring network. So between 2023 and 2026, we will be establishing approximately 20 to 25 additional community air monitoring sites along the interstates. We will also be evaluating the data and the pollutant concentrations over a much longer period of time. And then we're also going to be building capacity within the community around air pollution, air monitoring, and how the built environment plays a role. So I talked a little bit about how this started, but why are we doing this? Ultimately, we are working towards building community capacity around air pollution and air monitoring. We also want to be able to characterize and continually monitor localized air quality in the community where people spend most of their time. So where they live, learn, work, and play. We also want to be able to use the data from these air monitors to inform future transportation and land use planning and decision-making processes. And then we also want to equitably improve air quality, meaning that communities are not disproportionately affected by traffic-related air pollution. And lastly, we want to better understand low-cost air quality monitors so we can learn how to most effectively complement regulatory monitoring. So all of these are the long-term goals of the entire project team, and these can be informed by a community air monitoring network. There will be a lot that will be accomplished between March of 2023 and March of 2026 when the EPA grant timeline ends. So during that time frame, we'll be focusing on right now the December to May 2024 section. So during this time, we are preparing for the coalition meeting. This is our first coalition meeting. It's open to everyone who's interested, as well as existing community sites and potential future community sites. And that will be tomorrow evening. It's a virtual meeting from 5 to 6:30 p.m. We are also at this time identifying future community air monitoring sites. So we're looking to add about 8 to 12 during this phase. And then in about a year from now, we'll add an additional sites. That will also be informed by a public survey that will be going out. And then we're also doing mapping exercises. USF and EPC have also been, they'll also be co-locating the monitors, again, for testing. We've also been working to develop a guidebook, which will serve as a reference for the community and the sites. And we're working with Hillsborough County Public Schools to bring community air monitoring activities and education to the schools. So if we look more specifically at the site selection process, so how we identify the sites, a huge part of this is community collaboration and engagement, because we really want residents to gain an understanding of air quality. The other piece of that is that these community sites couldn't exist without it. So it's really, community engagement is ingrained throughout the entire site selection process. And we take a multi-step approach to identify the sites. First, we identify and prioritize the areas to focus community air monitoring efforts in. And then we go on to explore potential sites within those communities we identified. Next, we also get suggestions from the community and stakeholders. And then we confirm the sites, go on and conduct field visits. And then lastly, we sign agreements with the sites and install the monitors and signage. So right now we are exploring the potential community sites and we are really ramping up our community engagement efforts. We'll take a little bit of a closer look at those first two steps in the site selection process, which are to prioritize the areas and the sites for community air monitoring. And those are informed by two criteria. First, the community selection criteria that helps us narrow down the areas to focus our efforts. And these are also based on the EPA's EJ Screen tool, the TPO's non-discrimination and equity plan, modeling and research, as well as input from the community. So this criteria includes three main factors. The first one is an environmental factor, which is the proximity to the interstate. So those areas that are most impacted by traffic-related air pollution due to proximity. And then we also look at demographic factors, the primary ones being areas with low income populations and a majority of people of color. And then based on the kickoff meeting in November that we had, we actually added in some additional factors, demographic factors, which you can see on the screen. And then lastly, for the community selection criteria, we look at opportunities for community access and engagement. So really, is this an area where people spend their time? And then once we know the areas, then we start to explore and prioritize potential sites based on the site selection criteria. And again, that includes the community access and engagement, but we're really narrowing down our focus to say, is this a location where people congregate and spend a lot of their time? We again look at the proximity to the interstate, but narrow that down further to locations either within 1,000 feet of the interstate. That's where the majority of the grant-funded monitors will be located. We also look at some locations farther than 3,000 feet from the interstate for comparison purposes. And then we gauge interest and see if an organization or a community-based entity would be interested in being involved in this project long term. And we also look at logistical considerations such as access to power and Wi-Fi, or if it's a solar-powered monitor, then whether or not the location receives sun. And then based on the community selection criteria, we prioritized locations for community air monitoring for this phase. So those are the pink shaded areas that you see on the screen here. We are currently exploring and getting input on potential sites within those areas. So if any of you have suggestions, we'd love to hear that. You can also share your suggestions during the public survey that will be coming up. And that concludes my presentation. Just as a quick reminder, we do have the coalition meeting tomorrow evening. And again, you're welcome to join that, and we'll have the public survey. My contact information is here if you have any questions in the future. Wyatt Burchell, he also recently joined the TPO, and so he's also available for questions. And thank you for your time. And if you have any questions now, I'd love to hear them.
I say thank you. We really enjoyed this presentation at the TPO as well. Anyone? Okay. Omar.
I did just want to say I was listening to the radio this morning, and I guess we're under a ozone advisory warning for Tampa Bay area, so that's very timely. Because yeah, I know like air pollution, like the general story is gotten a lot better over the years. Like like cars are running more efficient and like not polluting as much, but obviously it's still an issue. And a lot of those tracks that you identified, we also do this out hard with looking at Justice 40 census tracks and figuring out where our buses go, making sure that the buses that are older buses that aren't as efficient, we're not running through these communities solely, just trying to make sure it's equitable. Yeah, I think it's good work, and yeah, just a lot of those Travis, you pointed out, we're like in East Tampa as well, you know, like more low income areas. So it's good. And again, if Park can partner in any way, you know, we're happy to talk with you guys as well, and share anything would be fine too.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it.
Some of the things that TPA talked about were looking at corridors that aren't necessarily interstates. People were concerned about that. And then we all, I brought up that the tire pollution, that's really
Yeah,
the bigger. I mean, the EV
it's true. Yeah.
helps, but the tire pollution is, people are now focusing on that more. But I think we're all looking forward to the survey. It will be great, and really looking, also something that was brought up is she said the data is available on a website. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the monitors, the data is transmitted real time, so you can actually see the data on the Clarity of Purple Air maps online. So yeah, I'll absolutely share those.
Yeah, thank you so much, because I think several organizations could really use that. So,
Yeah.
Lizzie, I was going to ask if the link in the QR code take you to that website or just the study website.
The QR code takes you to the project webpage, but the project webpage has the maps embedded in it, and the links to those maps.
People want access, so right from this. Emily?
Lizzie, I know one of your locations that you've had in the past is Seminole Elementary. And just looking at your map of places you want to put new ones, has the school district been a good partner on that? And are you able to do that at additional schools? Since those are great places to start monitoring air quality and health.
Yeah, absolutely. We've worked with Seminole Elementary School as well as Booker T. Washington, which is right next to Robert J. Saunders Library that has a monitor. And they've been wonderful to work with. And we're working with the Hillsborough County Public Schools green teams as well, their sustainability teams. And so we've been working with them on educational programs. And we're looking at additional schools to place monitors at.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Is there any old business? Okay, Lisa. I'll remind you, we have a few vacancies, especially with professional organizations that done some reaching out. I think it's people to apply. But because of those vacancies, it's really important that the rest of you attend so that we meet our quorum requirements. And I got to thank you, because I hear that Livable Roadways is the best at the response rate using the little RSVP button. You will diminish by exponentially email reminders for Lisa. You go ahead and use that little button, because it automates, it tells everybody that needs to know. So please keep that up and use that. We have had the luxury, and I don't want you to get used to it, but we've had the luxury of just having a few items the last few months. We are headed into the season where our agendas are packed with required topics and things that require action. So I can't just about them because they're, miscellaneous topics. So if you get in the habit of, you have to be very concise and thorough and quick with our comments on those full agenda months. Otherwise, we're going to go late. So thank you for that. And then I don't know if one of our other members wants to mention some of the May 5-month activities, like May 16th.
Yes, I can do that. Well, I'll start with May 8th is National Bike to School Day, Bike and Roll to School Day, which will be celebrated in several schools around Hillsborough County. We are looking for prize items, raffle items to share with students. So if you have any access to any of those, please let me know. And then Walk Bike Tampa has an event coming up on May 16th to celebrate National Bike Month. And that will be at the airport. I think it'll be a really exciting event. Please visit the Walk Bike Tampa Facebook and webpage to learn more about this event, details of what we have going on.
On the school program, how many, I work for MetLife now. So they're always looking for community things. I mean, they give out little Snoopies and stuff like that. What's that account you would want?
I can talk to you after.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a couple of things. Just wanted to let you know that FDOT has funded 4 sections of the Green Artery in the city of Tampa. If you didn't know, part in Sulphur Springs and in North Old Seminole Heights. And then also, I believe, trying to connect that 15th Street, the Cass Avenue bikeway as it goes north. So I will bring you all that as you know, as we learn more. We actually have FDOT coming to speak to council tomorrow as their update, and that's one of the things I'm going to ask is, yeah, we've funded this, like, when is it going to get started? Because the same thing with the Old Avenue bikeway, it's been funded, we've approved it, it's been sitting around, so when are we going to get some start action on that? And unfortunately, I won't be able to be at the Walk Back Tampa thing because I won a scholarship to the Congress for New Urban. So I'm going to be going to that, and I'm really excited to bring back some ideas. I'm really going to focus on transit, walkability.
Perhaps after you get back from that, you could join a Walk by Tampa board meeting and discuss what you.
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's yeah, I'm quite excited about it. It's very overwhelming. It's a lot of stuff happening. It'll be good. On your other topic, you could say, hey, TPO staff, would you work with DIT on bringing that presentation to a future committee meeting? We can do the coordinate for you. Oh, okay. On the Green Artery update. Yes, that would be really lovely, just to kind of say, yes, please. We have a monthly coordination. Actually, that would be lovely if you could do that. And like I said, I'm going to mention it tomorrow anyway, but I think it would be great for us to get an update about how that Green Artery. Yes.
Are we on new business now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was wondering if maybe we can keep it at the bottom of the status of the agenda for future meetings, but I'd love to see if we could get maybe an update or have someone from the county come and discuss the BOCC priority letter that was in the agenda for this meeting.
Oh, okay. I can give you TPO's response, which was absolutely no. It was pretty harsh. It was pretty strong. And I believe that Dr. Wong has written a letter in response.
Okay.
So if that's not in here, maybe we could share that. Yes, when it gets vetted and you see,
Of course.
all it's gone forward as the request.
Yeah, it would be great to understand a little bit of why, from the county's perspective, what their thinking is, and also from the TPO's perspective when that letter is available for viewing. There were some concerns I had in that letter as well, but I figured it'd be good to have a status report. There's nothing actionable in it to learn about where that's coming from.
To give you all a quick update, basically the Board of County Commissioners wrote a letter saying you need to prioritize South and East County, and we want all of that to go to the top of the LRTP. And I mean, from the smaller cities, every angle, people said, you can't jump. We already have these needs. I basically said, where's your impact fee? Like what? I mean, we can't pay for new. We already have somebody likened it to a hurricane and preparing for a Category 5. And then Alan Clendenin said, well, we've been cleaning up from a Category 5 for years. And so we can't prioritize new on the backs of the old. So it was definitely and Commissioner Owen tried to say that really it was just, they were trying to bring it forward and it wasn't supposed to be so harsh, but the letter was really harsh. So I highly recommend you read it. And then Dr. Wong's response, which was very measured, but it was not in the interest of the DPO to consider leapfrogging all the other projects that we've been working on.
On that note, I don't know if there's an update. I remember a couple months ago, there was a East Hillsborough transportation study that I believe Commissioner Owen asked to be funded through the TPO, or there's some sort of study. It was in an agenda probably about within the last 6 months. I can go back and find it, but I don't know if there's any update on that or if there is any genesis of it that's able to share.
One, I will let you know because I had to go pop into another meeting, so I didn't get to finish hearing the TPO's discussion, and it's on my to-do list. So you can watch that on YouTube. They're posted, and you can fast forward. It's very convenient. So
I use it, feel free as a community to use it. This is why we bring you the UPWP, our work program, so that you guys say, yes, that's what we want to say. And then as we move past the LRTP update, we will be looking at what are we going to use specifically, so you can plug in and see, oh, so it needs to, you know, but I can check on that. I don't, unless we vetted it and put a PR together and blessed it, and the board said yes, it's not as many.
Yeah, I don't remember if there was, I remember asking, what is this? And I believe the response from the presenter was, it's a proposed study that the county commission has asked, and I wasn't sure if the jurisdiction was Hillsborough County was studying it, if it was an FDOT study. So it's been some months since that was presented in front of us, and I think it was with the Unified Work Program. But I'll have to go back.
We got lots of requests and we have so many dollars. Oh, I looks like we have someone who could possibly today. Okay.
Ryan Hunter with the Florida Department of Transportation. These.
Like, yes, okay, sorry.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So that was a part of the tentative work program presentation that we did. That is going to be an FDOT study that will look at some of the transportation patterns and development that has occurred in East Hillsborough County, pretty much from I-75 to the east. And so that way we can update our model and make sure that we're reflecting some of those traffic patterns and growth that's occurring in that area. We have a pretty good handle on the traffic patterns in our urban core, but the rural and suburban, exurban, we really don't have, we haven't invested a lot of resources in doing traffic counts and data collection out there. So that's what that study will do.
When is that getting started?
I think it's the next fiscal year is when we have funding for that. So,
well, that clears my question. Thank you for asking that. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Brian. There you go.
The county commission could raise some money more from developers as they build more houses out in the exurbs. And then now they're demanding more services, but they don't want to pay for them. They don't want to pay for art. The county commission has gone the other way most recently.
And you know, we had funding questions in our LRTP survey. It's a very difficult decision to come forward. Okay. Vice Chair, all right, we completed everything in the city else, big business or old business. I'll provide the letter and then you can go view the comments, okay? So I get it, have to put action.
We even hear what's that comes.
No.
Okay.
Does the FIA rep come to this?
Yes, they were online.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Gail, you can complete the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Everything you can pass.
Sorry.
Let me see your comment.
Yeah.
Like it.